Joining us now to add his comments on the conversation we have rolling is Uncle B, dual threat analyst, national champion at BYU, Blaine Fowler. Blaine, welcome back to the set.
What's up, boys?
Now let's hear your Stanford Cardinal color
everybody
argument.
knows that when I wear a red shirt, it's a Stanford shirt.
Yes.
I would not assume that everyone knows that.
I got this shirt in Palo Alto.
It's a son-in-law thing.
Your son-in-law, Dallas Lloyd, played.
Got to support. We still support him because we know the staff over there from Dallas.
It's just on the heels of losing to UNLV.
And because Coach Anderson is the man over there. Their D coordinator.
He is the man. Lance Anderson.
Yeah. He's got lots of ties to everybody here in Utah. He's a good dude. And so we root for Stanford. There's one red team that I root for very strongly, and that's Stanford.
Maybe this is a ploy for Blaine to lure some of his good coaches back to Utah at some point in the future if that opportunity ever arises.
We'll get them back here.
Just saying. This is a play for a long time in the future. Okay, our question of the day, Blaine. Why is the famous Idaho Potato Bowl a big deal for BYU?
The last 3 weeks are the big deal. And as I've been to practice and watching the work that the young guys have been getting in practice, that's something that you don't have. You get to keep your team together for almost a month more than you would otherwise. And as much as you want them to focus on school and all that, keeping them together as young as they were this year, this is almost more important this year than any year I can remember, because I can't remember a year, especially on the offensive side of the football, when they've played as many freshmen and sophomore football players. And so to have those guys have that many more practices now that carries into spring ball is really important. And the most important player to get that extra work is Zach Wilson. So when you start a true freshman quarterback, for him to get another game and 3 more weeks of practice, of understanding how to read defenses and being coached up after every play and all that, it's huge for him. And so now I believe the game is important as well, because now they have to show something for the extra 3 weeks of practice. And if they go out and they get a win in this, the offseason is very positive. That youthful group comes back all together in spring ball, and they've got a positive mentality going into the offseason, and it also, frankly, helps recruiting. Not every recruit. Some kids are coming here no matter what happens in this game, but some that are still sitting on the fence may go, yeah, this team finished strong with all those young guys. And it's a chance for them to watch a game on television where the announcers are going to be saying, man, this is a really young team. They played 6 or 7 freshmen on offense. The future is really, really bright. Recruiters are sitting home listening to that, and if they just whomp on Western Michigan, then these recruits are going to go, oh yeah, I want to be part of that. This is an up and rising program with a lot of young guys. I have a chance to play with those young guys for the next several years. Yeah, this is where I want to be.
And I think people connect with people more than ideas. And that person, like you said, is Zach Wilson. So if Zach Wilson has a great game, they go, oh, he's a freshman. I want to play with that guy. And then you look at next year's schedule as you kind of build toward the future. I've pushed long and hard on this show, Blaine, saying, listen, the future's overrated. It's all about the present. But let's look at the first 4 games and evaluate if the future is overrated.
And the home schedule next year is the best ever for BYU.
Utah.
Can anybody even question that?
No. Utah, at Tennessee, USC, Washington are the first 4.
Yeah.
So there is some level of preparation for next year.
You don't think that there's that an extra month of time with these guys is a good thing?
It's literally another spring, because you get 15 practices for the bowl game. You get 15 in the spring.
Yeah. And I look at this offensive line, and they were young, and they were getting better as the season progressed, but there were still some times when it wasn't that they were getting beat physically. They were making mental errors. Teams were showing them things they hadn't seen before. There wasn't a point of reference to say, guys, this is what New Mexico did to us last year. There was no last year for any of these guys. So there's no point of reference. They come over to the sideline at a timeout in between series, and coach can't say, hey, guys, this kind of a twist in that front, we saw this when we played SMU 2 years ago. You know this. No, there's none of that. So everything was brand new, and teams would come into games, and if they were teams that just lined up and played you straight up with really good talent like Wisconsin, hey, the guys did pretty well. Physically, they were pretty good. It was when they played teams. Cal's a perfect example of that. Cal came in and ran a bunch of twists and fronts that BYU hadn't seen, and BYU struggled to pick those things up because they have no frame of reference or experience with it. So I watched the balance of the season, and I go, I'm not as concerned, because they weren't physically getting beat up. They were mentally trying to learn the game. And who plays? I mean, they played 4 freshmen and a sophomore on that line a bunch this year. Many games started 3 freshmen and a sophomore.
You lose Austin Hoyt, and that's it?
Yeah, and so now 3 extra weeks of practice where they get to see a bunch of stuff. I watched them one day in practice run a bunch of blitz pickup stuff, just crazy stuff. Say, now you pick this up. And I can remember in '84 when we won the national championship, a veteran line with a center that had been there forever in Trevor Matich. I mean, I can remember before that with Steve Young as a quarterback and Bart Oates playing center, where a team in the very first series would run something we hadn't seen, and Trevor would go in the huddle and look to the other lineman and go, guys, this is exactly what Utah State ran against us last year. Remember this, that outside twist? I'm going to make a lucky call, and we'll just slide and pick it up. The line's making adjustments in the huddle in the first drive. That could not possibly happen this year with the group we have. Yet, it's an unbelievably talented young group of offensive linemen. And that's where it all starts for BYU when they've been really good. So this extra time of practice with those guys combined with a young quarterback and young receivers is huge. The defense has already arrived. They're very good. It's a top 25 defense, and they're going to get better. But offensively is where BYU struggled, and it was a lot about youth, and they made a big youth movement this year. Every practice is important for a young group.
Blaine Fowler, Uncle B, with us on BYU Sports Nation, dual threat analyst. We'll discuss basketball now. BYU, after a heartbreaking loss to UNLV at T-Mobile Arena, three-pointer at the buzzer, lose by 2 to the Rebels and drop to 8-5 on the season. So assessing where BYU is now through 13 games at 8-5. I mean, they're 2 overtime losses away from being 10-3 and us having an entirely different, fun, happy, what-if conversation, Blaine. So what are the expectations now?
I mean, it's hard to say. They have got to get better defensively. There's no question about it. And they made a fundamental change in what they were doing offensively to be more up-tempo because it fits the skill set of this group better. But when you're pushing the basketball and you want to go score 90 or 100, something gives on the other end. And they're not great in interior defense right now with the rotations. They don't have a big-time rim protector in there. Yeah, Yoli's a good shot blocker, but he's not a guy that just sits in the post and you can tell your guards, hey, go push up on those guys outside. Because it doesn't matter if you get beat off the dribble. Just put your nose on the back of their number. Don't let them pull up, because if they get to the rim, they're not going to make a shot. Now, Gonzaga can do that in every game. So they have got to figure out a balance of how much they want to push the basketball and how much it's effective on the defensive end with legs and all of that, and how they want to defend. How many games is UNLV going to play this year? 31 games? Probably. That game plan against UNLV is going to be good in the other 30 games. Like, that was just unbelievable. Because what you say against UNLV is they can't shoot. Just look at the numbers. They cannot shoot threes. And BYU doesn't have a big rim protector, so play off of them. Don't let them beat you off the dribble, because if they're going to win, they're going to have to beat you off the dribble, get to the rim, or get fouled and shoot free throws. And so BYU says, well, that's the right game plan against that team. And what do? They go down and just knock threes down like they're going out of sight in the first half.
9 in the first half.
It's like
9.
You could leave them open. They can't shoot that good in practice. At least that's not what they've shown. Now, maybe they turned a corner. So then BYU tries to adjust, and guess what? Then UNLV does what they do best, and they get to the free throw line, and when you're double-digit plus in free throws made, you're going to have a hard time. I like that BYU came back in that game, but I don't fault the game plan at all. And then how does UNLV win? They win with a shot that's the worst thing that they do. Right? So if you were going to design a defense, you would say against this team, do not let them get to the free throw line and tie the game up there or win the game there. Don't let them attack the rim and get a shot at the rim. Make them shoot a step-back three, because that's what they don't do well. And they make that. So I almost feel bad, because I feel like they had the right game plan against this team. They got down with that game plan. They battled back and made adjustments. And in the end, they get killed by a shot that UNLV has no business making. I don't know what you do on that one. But I do think they need to figure out what their identity is going to be defensively. And the offense has something to do with that. The pace they play at and how they play offense has something to do with how they can play D.
All right, Blaine Fowler with us on BYU Sports Nation, talking football and basketball. Here's hoping the Cougars can figure it out this week off and go get it done against San Diego State. Yeah, and San Diego State, that's another team that you would say, let them shoot threes and don't let them penetrate. And San Diego State's a really good defensive basketball team. So you almost have the same game plan that you had against UNLV. If they go down and knock down 9 threes in the first half, I don't know what you do. Man, there's something about teams getting into a rhythm, though. It's like they see that first shot go down, and then the whole mentality
It's hard.
changes.
Elite teams can go press up on the perimeter. They have a shot blocker. Some teams can play with pace and defend on the other end, but those are the top teams in the country.
You can only do so much.
Right.
You have to push your resources somewhere.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Blaine.
All right, guys.
Great to have you with us.